Hello, friend. I'm so happy to see you joining me today. This is episode 15 of the series of Coffee with Hannele Korhonen, Happy Customers and Happy Lawyers. And you are warmly welcome today to have a cup of coffee with me. My name is Hannele and I'm from Lawyers Design School. And in these weekly live sessions, you will get actionable advice and tips on how to get more happy clients and make yourself a happy lawyer too, with the help of legal design thinking. And feel free to ask questions and leave comments below to get the discussion going. Today we will continue the theme of legal design IRL, so looking at what legal design looks like in real life. And more specifically, what legal design looks like when we apply legal design to legal documents, like the terms and conditions of your business. And today we are kind of reimagining the user experience of your contracts with the help of contract design. And the purpose of today's episode is to give you inspiration and new ideas how you could apply legal design tools in your work and business in order to boost the client experience that you offer in your services. So first, let me explain what contract design is for those of you who are new to the subject. In short, contract design is about making the contracts easier for the user, like for your client. And when we design contracts, we structure and present the information in a way that is easier and more understandable to the client. And then we use legal design process and tools to do this. And contract design is about improving the usability on the other hand, and then on one hand, the user experience of your contracts from the user's perspective. So why is this important, you might ask? Well, to be honest, I think one look at your current terms and conditions might be enough to explain why this is important. Because if you haven't revisited them lately, I'm assuming that they are all wall of text with a tiny font, frustratingly complicated and boring. Am I right? Now, think about your client for a second and their journey with you. At which point do they come across with your terms and conditions? In the beginning of your relationship, just when they are entering into your world. First contact and discussions have gone really well and you're ready to make it official between the two of you. And then you send them the terms and conditions for approval. Did I already mention a wall of text, frustration, complication and boring? And how is that for a first impression and brand building for a modern and future-oriented and human-friendly law firm? Is that what you want to offer? And when we think about client experience, I think we have ignored contracts from our client experience and brand building altogether. And at the same time, contracts are so important part of the client journey we offer. Clients are always facing contracts at some point in their journey with us. Contracts are always part of the journey. And for that reason, they should not be excluded from the work we do when we craft the client journey and improve the overall experience with us. But still, most lawyers do not see this. They do not see the contracts as interaction, as communication tool, as a proactive tool to build the client relationships. Most lawyers see contracts as kind of necessary evil, tools to minimize risks and to prepare for a trial. And I think that the contracts are many times our blind spot, something that we think that we cannot change or improve. But I respectfully disagree, as you might guess, because there's so much that we can do to improve our contracts and still make sure that they are legally valid. So user-friendliness and validity are not mutually exclusive. And what's best with contract design, you don't have to be a graphic designer or wizard with some fancy software to be able to work on the design of your contracts. And you don't need a huge budget either. So I will share a few of my favorite techniques that I've used when designing my own terms and conditions to serve my clients better in the Lawyers Design School. And I want to get really concrete with this session. So I want you to go and take a look at the redesigned terms and conditions in lawyersdesignschool.com/terms of use. So it's lawyersdesignschool.com/terms of use. There you can see the contract design sample at the same time as I walk you through the process and the tools that I've used in redesigning those terms and conditions. So first technique is to start the terms and conditions with the beef. Start with the beef. And by this, I mean that you place the information that is most important for your client at the start of the contract. And we lawyers have our own logic with presenting information. We bury the beef deep inside the contract where our client cannot find it. And we start with the contract with history and background and explaining definitions and throw in a few legal reference. And only on maybe page 4 or 5, we get to the point. Or in some cases, we leave the beef, which may be, for example, price information that the client comes to look for. We leave that at the end of the contract. So how does this start with the beef technique look like in real life in those Lawyers Design School terms and conditions? There we start the terms and conditions with the 3 most important topics for our clients when they are purchasing workshop from us. We put the beef right there where the client can find it. So how do I know what is important for our client? Well, I pulled the data about the questions and concerns our clients most often have, and then placed those topics at the start of the document. And in our case, the most frequently asked questions is about the cancellation policy. So if someone has registered to a workshop, they are wondering whether they are able to cancel and what are the details for that. So as you see, the cancellation policy might not be the most fun thing to bring up with your client. And in fact, this might even just be the clause that you would like to bury deep and hope that your client will not find it. Or if they found it, they would not understand it and just blindly agree. But how does that build trust with your business? The more transparent you are with your legal stuff, the more trust you build and the stronger relationship you get as a result. And that's what you want, of course. And hiding these important clauses from your client is not even good business, because unclear is bad business. If my client does not understand, they will not buy. That's very simple. So if you think about this technique, start with the beef. It's very doable and does not require any specific visual skills to be able to use it. What you do need is understanding of your clients and what is important for them, and then willingness to be clear and transparent with your legal text. Then moving on to the second technique that I wanted to share with you today. And the second technique is to create an action layer to your complex content. And by this, I mean adding extra elements to your terms and conditions to help your client to take action that the contract requires from them. And the philosophy behind this technique is that contracts actually have many different users, if you think about it. We ourselves use the terms and conditions as our defense and security. We want to define our obligations and limit our liability. And as service providers, we may be obliged to include certain legal information in a certain format just to comply with the legal requirements. But your clients' needs are most likely very different. they look at your terms and conditions to find information that is relevant for them and to apply that information to their particular situation. And if your client is an organization, there is most likely many different users reading the same document at your client's end. So how do you then serve 2 or more completely different users in one document? Well, you can create different layers for different users. And I learned this technique from Rob Waller, who is an information designer at Simplification Center. And his research presents a layered model for future contracts. And these layers include a reference layer, which means the full text of the contract, and then an explanation layer, and then also an action layer that gives the client kind of at a glance information, what is being asked from them. And in our case, you can see the layering technique used in the frequently asked questions table at the start of the document. And additionally, we included icons throughout the document to give that at-a-glance information for the client. And we wanted to explain the core content in the format of questions and answers, and that would then create this explanation layer. And we also added these icons to different clauses to help the clients to find the relevant clauses for them without the need to read the entire text first, which can be really frustrating. Well, this technique also requires this client-centered approach, because you need to understand the questions that your clients have and where they need further explanation. But it doesn't require heavy investments or graphic designer to make it happen. In fact, you could implement this technique right away. And I encourage you, if you haven't done that already, you might want to start collecting data about the questions your clients have about working with you and your relationship. This will build your understanding of the content you want to highlight in your contracts as well. And from that understanding, you can create these frequently asked questions or other elements to your terms and conditions to create these different layers. And then the third of my favorite contract design techniques is to change your tone of voice to be client-friendly. And by this, I mean speaking directly to your client in your terms and conditions and not speaking to some faceless mass of people. And yes, this is possible also in legal language. Because whoever said that in order for legal language to be binding and valid, it needs to be distant and formal and passive and lack personality. No one said that. It's just legacy. That's the way we have done it always. But the terms and conditions are one important interaction, a touch point your client has with you. So why not surprise them with a friendly and personal touch? Why not design terms and conditions that are welcoming your client into your world in a friendly way? In our terms and conditions in Lawyers Design School, I wanted to change the tone of voice entirely. I wanted to speak to my clients directly in a kind and a personal way. And I start the terms and conditions with a greeting and then go on addressing my client, taking into account their needs. And I wanted to increase engagement and also motivation for the clients to read at least the first paragraphs with the most important information, because I think that the blind consents do not serve anyone. And I do realize that this level of friendliness is not right for everybody. So before designing your language, you first need to get really clear on your brand and how you want to be perceived, and also get to know your clients, what works best for them. And I know that for some organizations, a more formal tone of voice may be better than this really kind of conversational style. But as long as the choice is deliberate and in the best interest of your clients, I think that you will do just fine. So there you have it, the 3 techniques that you can start using immediately in your own terms and conditions to make them easier for your clients. Now it's your turn. What did you learn today? And do you have any questions? Are you ready to start experimenting with your contracts for better client experience? Be sure to follow next episode where I will be sharing more insight on how to improve your client experience with legal design. And I want to thank you for joining me today. I'd love to hear from you, so please leave comment or drop me a direct message to continue the discussion. See you next week. Bye-bye.